parents always said, work hard, study hard, put that damn phone aside. So I did. I memorized all the parts of a plant, the entire periodic table, and even the capital city of Burkina Faso, just in case. But between you and me, that just in case never really came. Ironically enough, though, half the billionaires out there didn't listen. They dropped out, built empires based on technology and AI, and here I am still explaining photosynthesis to a plant that probably understands it better than I do. As students, we grew up hearing that education equals success. But somewhere between exams, assignments, and copy what's on the board, education becomes less about unlocking potential and more about unlocking good handwriting. One of the greatest constants in human life, formal education, has unfortunately become one of our greatest evolutionary disappointments. A classroom from 100 years ago looks almost identical to one you might walk into today. A teacher in the front, a board behind them, and rows of students expected to absorb knowledge. Let's put this in perspective. The man who ingeniously crafted the first microscope, Robert Hooke, sliced a wine cork into thin slices to view a microscopic cell. But today, even the simplest microscope at your school contains optical-grade glass and digital imaging within it. Carl Benz, for example, envisioned a vehicle on wheels. But a car from the 19th century looks nothing like one from the 21st. Even better yet, the Wright brothers took their first functional airplane at the start of the 20th century, which barely lasted 12 seconds. But today, commercial airlines practically fly themselves. Now, the microscope, the car, and the airplane have seen such dramatic changes beyond recognition, but the classroom, the literal engine of human progress, has barely budged. Why is that? Perhaps because we cling to tradition. We trust that what worked with us for the centuries will work with us in the future. But sometimes that very trust, that's what limits us. Now, Robert Hooke, Carl Benz, and your very own grandmother have worked in these exact classrooms and have succeeded in their respective fields. So why should we question those methods? Let me ask you a question. How many of you have a smartphone? How many of you have a grandmother who had a smartphone at your age? Expected, right? We live in an age where technology accesses knowledge, where technology allows us to have our access to anything. But somewhere between technology and traditional education, we seem lost. Now, I thought exams measured intelligence, but turns out all they were testing is how fast I could write without ending my paper up looking like a doctor's prescription, one that even my doctor couldn't read. There was once I memorized 10 pages of biology notes an hour before the exam. I felt like Einstein, until my brain had other plans. The exam ended and my brain said, mission accomplished, delete. And that's when I realized I wasn't learning to learn, I was learning to pass. And then came my savior, artificial intelligence. Suddenly, AI could write essays, summarize novels, and rephrase complex notes faster than I could find my calculator. And now, I'd admit, I used it. I used it to rephrase complex notes, to explain topics to me, to quiz me. And yes, sometimes I just wanted it to finish my math homework for me. But then I realized the lesser I thought, the lesser I learned, and that's when I made a change. I changed the way I use AI. If it gives me an answer, I ask why the answer works. If it explains a topic to me, I teach it back to myself, because if I can teach it, I have actually learned it. I used AI like a partner, not a shortcut, a tool for creativity, not for convenience. And that little change made all the difference. But the real evolution of education doesn't sit in new gadgets, but it sits in new mindsets. If you change your mindset, you could change education. Imagine a classroom where AI assesses students' strengths and weaknesses, gives you instant feedback, and adjusts lessons to your pace. While teachers can focus on mentorship, creativity, and character development, all required in our world today. So the real question maybe isn't just, has AI changed education, but have we changed with it? Because maybe real evolution doesn't lie in transferring information, but transformation of it. So I want you to ask a question to yourself. Not has education evolved, but have you students, evolved with it? And that means changing every answer into a new question, every challenge into curiosity, and every mistake into a new lesson. Which means we could change education one experiment, one question, and one curious mind at a time. Thank you.